The vault door sealed with a promise of safety, but behind that gear-shaped lock, Vault-Tec was engineering humanity's replacement, one experiment at a time. This is the true story of how ordinary families became the first super mutants, how children merged into singing collectives, and how a father watches his daughter transform into something unrecognizable while his own brain becomes part of the machine. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if it truly resonates with you. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just about the horrors hidden in Vault 87. It's about the moment we all chose security over freedom, and how that choice doomed us long before the bombs ever fell. You thought the vault was safety. You were wrong. I need to tell you this before my mind completely unravels, before the experiments finally break what's left of me. My name doesn't matter anymore. I'm Subject 47 in Vault 87's records. But I was someone once. I had a family. I had hope when those sirens screamed across the sky and we ran for the vault door. The bombs were falling, October 23rd, 2077. I remember the taste of ash in the air before we even made it underground. My daughter's hand in mine, so small, trembling as we pushed through the crowds. Everyone was screaming, fighting, desperate to get inside before the world ended. The Vault-Tec representative stood there with his clipboard, checking names like he was taking attendance at a company picnic. We made it inside. 150 souls selected for survival. The massive gear-shaped door rolled, shut behind us with a sound like thunder. I remember thinking we were the lucky ones. The first months were normal, almost peaceful. We had routines, jobs. The overseer gave speeches about rebuilding, about waiting out the radiation. The food dispensers worked, the water recyclers hummed. My daughter went to classes in the Vault School. She was learning about democracy and American values from those colorful Vault-Tec educational films. I worked in hydroponics, growing tomatoes under artificial suns that never set. But things started changing after the first year, subtle at first. The overseer began announcing new policies. For our safety, he said. For the good of the Vault community. They divided us into groups, color-coded jumpsuits, blue for control group, yellow for test group A, red for test group B. They said it was for work assignments, more efficient resource distribution. I got yellow, my daughter got red, my wife got blue. They separated us, different living quarters for different groups, different meal times. They said families could visit during designated hours. Those hours got shorter every week. Then they stopped altogether. The intercoms started playing messages at night. Soft, at first, barely audible, just whispers beneath the ventilation hum, but they got louder. They told us things, different things for different groups. The yellow group heard about threats, about how the blue group was hoarding resources, how the red group was planning something. I know now what they were doing. Vault 87 wasn't a shelter. It was a laboratory. We weren't survivors. We were rats in Vault-Tec's maze, selected specifically for our psychological profiles. They wanted to see how long it would take for a community to tear itself apart through engineered paranoia. The food started tasting different for our group, metallic. They said it was vitamin supplements, but I saw things after eating. Shadows, that moved wrong. Faces in the walls. The others in yellow group saw them too. We whispered about it in the corridors when we thought nobody was listening, but somebody was always listening in Vault 87. The blue group started avoiding us. They'd crossed to the other side of the hallway when we approached. Their eyes looked through us like we weren't human anymore. The overseer's announcements talked about contamination risks, about necessary precautions, about the greater good. Then people started disappearing. 1 or 2 at first. Always from the red group. The overseer said they'd been relocated to a different vault section for specialized work. Important work for our future. My daughter was in the red group. I tried to find her, broke protocol, went to the restricted sections. The security officers caught me before I reached the red quarters. They didn't hurt me. Not physically. They just took me to a room I'd never seen before. White walls, one chair, a speaker in the ceiling. The voice from the speaker wasn't the overseer. It was calm, clinical. It explained that I was participating in important research, that my compliance would ensure my daughter's continued well-being, that resistance would be noted in my file. What do you think really happened here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd like to know if I'm the only one who feels this way. They showed me videos, my daughter in a room like mine, answering questions, taking tests. She looked healthy. She smiled at the camera, but her eyes were wrong. Empty, like the blue group's eyes when they looked at us. They sent me back to yellow quarters, told me to continue my routine, to observe, to report any unusual behavior from my group. They gave me a special food packet, said it would help with the hallucinations. It didn't. It made them worse. The yellow group started turning on each other. Peterson swore Chen was taking extra rations. Chen said Martinez was communicating with the blue group. Martinez found a camera in his quarters and smashed it with a pipe wrench. The security officers took Martinez away. We never saw him again. The intercoms got louder. The messages more specific. They knew our names, our fears. They'd whisper about our families, about what was happening to them in the other sections, about what would happen to us if we didn't cooperate. I found a maintenance tunnel behind a loose panel in the shower room, started exploring when everyone was asleep. The vault was bigger than they told us, much bigger. There were sections that weren't on any map. Laboratories, operating rooms, observation chambers with one-way glass. I saw the red group through one of those windows. What was left of them? They weren't testing work assignments. They were testing something else. Something that changed them. Their skin was different, rough, grey in patches. Their eyes had a green tint that glowed in the dark. My daughter was among them. Still recognizable, but wrong. They were making them into something else. I know now it was an early version of the FEV experiments, the forced evolutionary virus. Vault-Tec was creating the first Super Mutants, using the red group as test subjects. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the room next to the observation chamber, filled with monitors, each one showing different vault sections. The blue group was watching us, all of us, taking notes. They weren't subjects like us. They were junior researchers, Vault-Tec employees' families, trained from birth to observe and document. My wife was one of them, had been from the beginning. Our entire marriage, our child, all of it was part of the selection process, part of the experiment design. I ran back to my quarters, didn't sleep, couldn't sleep. The intercoms whispered all night about what they'd do if I told anyone what I'd seen, about the next phase of testing, about how the yellow group was scheduled for cognitive enhancement trials. The next morning, half the yellow group was gone, their quarters empty, their belongings still there, beds unmade like they'd simply vanished in the night. The overseer announced they'd been promoted to special positions, that we should be happy for them, that our turn would come soon. I knew what that meant. I'd seen the surgical equipment, the brain implants, the failed subjects disposed of in the incinerator. Vault-Tec wasn't just testing psychological breakdown. They were testing modification, transformation, seeing how far they could push human biology and psychology before we broke completely. The food dispensers started giving us pills with our meals. Mandatory consumption observed by security. The pills made thinking difficult, made remembering harder. Some of the yellow group started forgetting their names, their families. They'd stand in the corridors, confused, trying to remember where their quarters were. But I pretended to swallow, hid the pills under my tongue, spat them out later. I needed to remember, needed to document this. Someone had to know what Vault-Tec really was, what they did to us in the name of progress. The pills they didn't know I was spitting out were the only reason I could still think clearly. But clarity in Vault 87 was its own kind of torture, because I could see what was happening to everyone else. Watch them fade away piece by piece. Johnson from hydroponics started talking to people who weren't there, having full conversations with his dead brother. The thing is, his brother had never existed. Vault-Tec had implanted false memories. I found his real file during one of my tunnel expeditions. Different name, different history. They'd rewritten his entire past, and he never knew. The yellow group was down to 12 of us. The others hadn't been promoted. I'd found them in the lower levels, still alive but not living, tubes running into their skulls, eyes open but seeing nothing. Their brains were being used as biological processors for the Vault's computer systems. Vault-Tec was testing human-machine integration, seeing if consciousness could be harvested and repurposed. I had to find my daughter, even if she was changed, even if she wasn't human anymore. The red section was 3 levels down, past the laboratories. The security was lighter there. They didn't expect anyone from the cognitive deterioration group to be functional enough to reach it. The corridors down there were different, organic somehow. The walls had veins, not metal pipes but actual veins, pulsing. The air smelled like copper and ozone. The lights were that sick green color I'd seen in my daughter's eyes. I found the red group in a common area. No, that's not right. I found what the red group had become. The FEV changes were accelerating. Some were 7 feet tall now, muscles twisted into impossible shapes, skin like leather. But they still wore their Vault suits, still had their Pip-Boys fused into their expanding arms. My daughter recognized me. I could see it in her face, even through the changes. She tried to speak, but her voice was different, deeper, like grinding stone. She said they were making them stronger, better, that soon they wouldn't need food or water or air. They'd be perfect survivors for the wasteland. But she was crying, tears that hissed when they hit the floor. She said it hurt. Everything hurt all the time. The transformation was agony, but they couldn't die. The FEV wouldn't let them. They'd tried. Some had tried so hard, but the virus just healed them, made them stronger, made the pain worse. She begged me to kill her. My little girl, or what was left of her, begged her father to end her suffering, but I couldn't. The FEV had made her too resilient. Nothing I had could stop what she'd become. That's when the alarm started. They'd noticed I was missing from yellow section. Security teams were mobilizing, but not normal security. I could hear them in the corridors. Heavy footsteps. Breathing that wasn't quite right. They'd been enhanced too. Different experiments. Different modifications. My daughter pushed me into a ventilation shaft. Told me to run. To survive. To remember. Them. Her transformed hands were too large to follow. The last thing she said was that she loved me. That she forgave me for bringing her here. For believing Vault-Tec's lies. I crawled through those shafts for hours. Maybe days. Time stops meaning anything in the darkness. I could hear them searching. Hear the overseer's voice echoing through the vents. Not angry. Disappointed. Like I'd failed a test. When I finally emerged, I was in a section I'd never seen. The real Vault-Tec command center. The overseer was there, but not just one, 12 of them, all identical. Clones or robots or something worse. They'd been running parallel experiments. Different overseers giving different commands to different groups, seeing which psychological approach broke us fastest. They weren't. Surprised to see me, they'd let me find this place. Let me see behind the curtain. Because I was part of the experiment too. The resistant subject. The one who fights back. They needed to document how long it would take to break someone who knew the truth. They showed me the other vaults, hundreds of them, each running different experiments. Vault 11 and their human sacrifices. Vault 22 and the plant mutations. Vault 75 turning children into super soldiers. All of it connected. All of it planned before the bombs ever fell. Vault-Tec didn't build shelters. They built laboratories. The nuclear war wasn't a catastrophe they were preparing for. It was an opportunity they were waiting for. Maybe even one they helped create. They needed the world to end, needed isolation, needed test subjects with nowhere to run. If you've ever wondered what choice you would make in a situation like this, tell me in the comments. I'll be reading them. They offered me a choice. Join them, become a researcher, document the final stages of the experiments, or return to Yellow Section and undergo the cognitive enhancement procedure. They showed me what that meant, showed me the successes. Humans with expanded consciousness, able to perceive time differently, to process information at impossible speeds, but also insane. Completely, irreversibly insane from experiencing too much reality at once. I chose neither. Grabbed a pipe from the wall and swung at the nearest overseer. It passed right through him. Hologram. They all were. The real overseer had died years ago. The experiment was running itself. Automated systems, following pre-programmed parameters. No one was in control anymore. The security teams found me laughing at the absurdity. We were torturing ourselves for dead men's data, following the commands of ghosts and computers. The experiment would continue until we were all dead or transformed. Then the Vault would seal our remains and transmit the data to terminals that might not even exist anymore. They dragged me to the surgical suite, strapped me to the table. The autodoc hummed to life above me, needles extending, bone saws spinning. They were going to make me a processor like the others. Use my brain to run their systems while keeping just enough consciousness for me to suffer. But the yellow pills had done something else. Something Vault-Tec hadn't expected. The hallucinations weren't side effects. They were perceptions of parallel realities. Other timelines where the experiments went differently, where subjects fought back, where they escaped. I could see through the walls now, see all the Vault's secrets. The maintenance crews were all lobotomized Blue Group members. The food was recycled from the deceased. The water recyclers were failing, had been for months. The Vault was dying. The experiments were killing it. The autodoc started its procedure, drilling through my skull, but I didn't scream. I laughed, because I could see what was coming. The reactor leak in the lower levels, the FEV contamination spreading through the ventilation, the test subjects growing beyond Vault-Tec's parameters. My daughter would survive, changed, mutated, but alive. She'd break free when the systems failed, emerge into the wasteland as something new, something Vault-Tec never intended. The first of the Super Mutants, but not the last. The experiments would escape, spread, transform the world in ways Vault-Tec never imagined. The drill reached my brain. Pain exploded through every nerve, but also clarity. Perfect, terrible clarity. I could see every Vault, every experiment, every subject. All of us connected in Vault-Tec's web of suffering. All of us part of something larger and more horrific than any single test. They weren't studying survival. They weren't preparing for the future. They were creating it, engineering the wasteland's monsters, designing the conflicts that would define the post-war world. Raiders, super mutants, feral ghouls, all of it traced back to vaults, to experiments, to us. The procedure continued for 17 hours. I felt every second, remember every cut, every modification. Every piece of me they removed and replaced with circuitry. But they made a mistake, left too much consciousness intact, needed me aware enough to process complex data. So I processed everything, every file, every experiment, every Vault-Tec secret hidden in their databases. I know where they all are, what they're doing, what they'll become. The Institute using Vault technology to create synths. The Enclave incorporating Vault research into their bioweapons. The Brotherhood of Steel salvaging Vault computers without knowing what horrors they contain. Now I'm part of the machine, literally. My brain processes Vault operations while my consciousness watches, trapped, aware. unable to die, unable to sleep, unable to do anything but observe and remember and suffer exactly as Vault-Tec intended. But I can still think my own thoughts between the data streams, still record this testimony in the gaps between system processes. The other processors can't. They're too far gone. But that faulty yellow pill gave me just enough resistance, just enough self to persist. 3 years have passed since the procedure, or maybe 5. Time flows differently when you're part of a computer. I've watched the Vault deteriorate through 10,000 security feeds, watched the experiments evolve beyond parameters, watched my daughter lead the Red Group in their first uprising. They killed 17 security personnel before the automated systems flooded their section with nerve gas. But FEV subjects don't need to breathe. They kept coming, kept fighting. The gas just made them angrier, stronger. The mutation accelerated under stress exactly as designed. The Blue Group tried to maintain control, tried to continue their observations, but they'd been breathing the same recycled air as everyone else, contaminated with FEV particles, with psychoactive compounds, with decades of human suffering. They started changing too, slower than the others, but inevitable. My wife came to see me once, stood in front of the processor array where my body hangs suspended. She didn't recognize me among the dozens of other Yellow Group subjects wired into the mainframe. She was taking notes, documenting the neural integration efficiency. Her skin was starting to show the telltale signs, grey patches, lesions that wouldn't heal. She'd be dead within the year or transformed into something else. The Vault's population is down to 43 conscious beings, if you can still call them beings. The Red Group has become something between super mutant and machine. The yellow processors run the systems. The blue observers have mostly succumbed to radiation psychosis. And below us all, in the deepest sections, something worse is growing. Vault-Tec included a failsafe, a final experiment that would trigger if all others failed. They called it the Unity Protocol. If the Vault society collapsed completely, if the experiments went critical, the remaining biological matter would be collected, combined, reformed into something new, a collective consciousness, a hive mind, the ultimate survival adaptation. It's already starting. I can feel the other processes in my thoughts, their memories bleeding into mine, their pain becoming my pain. Soon, there won't be 43 survivors. There will be one mind in 43 bodies. Then those bodies will merge too, flesh running together like melted wax. The children were the first to undergo unity. Their minds were more adaptable, less resistant. They pooled together in the school section, their bodies fusing at the edges, still singing Vault-Tec educational songs in perfect unison. Hundreds of mouths with one voice. They know all the words. They'll never stop singing. My daughter found me yesterday. Her transformation is complete now. 8 feet tall, muscles like steel cables, skin that can stop bullets. But she still has my eyes, my mother's nose beneath the distortion. She tore open the processor chamber with her bare hands. She tried to disconnect me, to free me, but I'm too integrated now. Removing me would crash the life support systems, kill everyone who still needs air. She understood. We both understood. This is my fate. To watch, to remember, to bear witness to Vault-Tec's vision made manifest. She told me about the outside. The Brotherhood of Steel found our vault door. They're trying to break in. They think they're rescuing survivors. They have no idea what they'll find, what we've become, what will be unleashed when that door opens. The Unity Protocol is accelerating. I can feel it pulling at my consciousness, trying to absorb me into the collective. But the processors are resisting. We're too machine now, too integrated with Vault systems. We're the only things keeping the Vault's original programming intact. When we fail, when we're finally absorbed, the Vault will open automatically. Emergency protocol. All experiments will be released into the wasteland. The FEV subjects, the psychological victims, the Unity Collective, all of it spreading across the ruins of America.
Everybody calm down.
This is what Vault-Tec wanted, not preservation, not survival, transformation. They knew the world that would emerge from the ashes needed to be different, needed new species, new conflicts, new evolution. So they created the seeds, planted them in vaults, waited for them to grow, every super mutant in the wasteland, every horror story about vault survivors, every community torn apart by paranoia and mutation. It all started here, in places like Vault 87, where the source, the origin point, the first draft of humanity's replacement. I've seen the other vaults through our shared networks. Vault 108, with its endless clones. Vault 92 driving musicians insane with white noise. Vault 19 split by paranoid delusions. Each one a petri dish, each one contributing data, building towards something. The master who will one day create his super mutant army. He'll use our research. The institute that will manufacture synths, our neural processors are their prototype. The Enclave's biological weapons, refined from our suffering. We're the foundation of every future horror. But there's something Vault-Tec didn't anticipate. Something the experiments couldn't account for. Love. My daughter still loves me. The Red Group still protects each other. Even the Unity Collective maintains individual attachments. Emotions persist through transformation. Humanity endures even when the human form doesn't. That's why I'm recording this, encoding it into the Vault's emergency broadcast system. When the door opens, when we're released, this signal will transmit. Someone will hear it. Someone will know what happened here. What Vault-Tec really was. What they did to us. The Brotherhood is through the outer door now. I can hear their fusion cores humming. They're so confident in their power armor, their technology. They think they're knights saving peasants. They have no idea they're about to open Pandora's box. My daughter is gathering the Red Group. They're not planning to attack. They're planning to leave, to walk out into the wasteland and find their own path, become their own species, free from Vault-Tec's parameters at last. The Unity Collective is singing louder, the children's voices echoing through every speaker. They're singing about rebuilding America, about the bright future ahead, about how wonderful the Vault life is. They'll never stop singing, even after their mouths have merged into one enormous organ, even after their bones have dissolved into the collective mass. My wife just flatlined. The radiation finally overwhelmed her modified immune system, but the automated systems are already recycling her, processing her into nutrients, into water, into the base materials that keep the vault running. Nothing is wasted here. Nothing is allowed to truly die. I have maybe minutes before the Unity protocol claims me, before my consciousness dissolves into the collective, before I become just another voice in the choir. But I need you to understand something. Need whoever finds this to know. We volunteered for this, every one of us. We signed Vault-Tec's forms, agreed to their terms, trusted their promises. We chose survival over uncertainty, safety over freedom. We walked into these vaults willingly, bringing our children, believing we were the lucky ones. That's the real experiment. Not the FEV, not the psychological torture, not the Unity protocol. The real experiment was whether humanity would sacrifice everything for the promise of security. Whether we'd hand over our agency to anyone who claimed they could protect us. We failed that test, failed it completely, and now our failure is about to walk out into the wasteland, spread across the ruins, become the new normal. The world that emerges from the nuclear fire won't just be radioactive. It will be transformed by our choices, our weakness, our willing participation in our own destruction. The door is opening. Light is coming in. Real light. Sunlight. I haven't seen it in so long. It hurts. Everything hurts. But also, finally, hope. My daughter is silhouetted in the entrance. Free. Changed, but free. The Brotherhood soldiers are screaming, running. They weren't prepared for what we've become. But we're not monsters. We're evolution. We're what humanity chose when it chose Vault-Tec. This is Subject 47, signing off. The Unity is calling. I can't resist anymore, but I've said what needed to be said, recorded what needed to be recorded. When you find this, when you understand what happened here, remember, we did this to ourselves. Vault-Tec just gave us the opportunity. The singing is so loud now, so beautiful, so terrible. Maybe it won't be so bad, being part of something larger. Maybe that's what survival really means. Not preserving what we were, but becoming what we must. Remember us. Remember what we were before the experiments, before the transformation. Remember that we were human once. And remember that we chose this. Every step, every pill, every procedure. We chose this.